The uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. They don't disrespect you because you're weak. They disrespect you because you're predictable. Too easy to read, too easy to reach, too easy to forget. You hold the door. You apologize first. You text back fast. You explain, clarify, soften, bend. And somewhere along the way, they stop listening. You thought kindness would earn respect, that being honest, generous, and available would mean something. But in a world built on leverage, predictability is not virtue, it's vulnerability. Machiavelli warned us, if you must choose between being loved or feared, choose fear. But he wasn't advocating cruelty. He was exposing the law of power. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more you explain, the less you're understood. The more you give, the less you're valued. The more you try to be liked, the easier you are to leave. Have you ever sat in a room and felt like you didn't exist? Have you ever watched people walk past your efforts, your loyalty, your presence, like they were stepping over a puddle? That's not because you lacked value. It's because you made your value too accessible. And in the economy of human attention, what's too accessible becomes disposable. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming calculated. Silence, when used right, isn't absence, it's authority. Stillness, when intentional, doesn't mean apathy. It means you stop bleeding for those who never learned how to bandage you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people start listening. The moment you stop trying to be chosen, they start trying to keep you. The moment you become unreadable, you become unforgettable. This is what Machiavelli understood. Power doesn't live in words. It lives in presence, in mystery, in the discipline to hold back while the world demands you unravel. Because when your presence becomes a question, it begins to carry the weight of an answer no one's ready to hear. And that weight, that's where it starts. 1. The hidden pain. There's a kind of pain no one talks about. It doesn't scream. It doesn't scar. It doesn't even leave a mark. But it stays. And it drains you one quiet moment at a time. It's the pain of being overlooked, giving your best and being remembered last, showing up for people who never showed up for you. You felt it in that meeting when your ideas were passed over, at the dinner table when your silence wasn't noticed, in the relationship when your patience was mistaken for permission. And what makes it worse? No one sees it happening because you were calm, because you were kind, because you never made a scene. So your pain became invisible and your presence became predictable. You were taught kindness is a virtue, forgiveness is strength, loyalty is the glue that holds everything together. But no one taught you kindness without boundaries becomes bait. Forgiveness without distance becomes permission. Loyalty without strategy becomes self-destruction. This isn't just philosophy, it's history. Socrates, the man who taught the world how to think, was sentenced to death by those he tried to enlighten. Jesus, the symbol of unconditional love, was crucified by the very people he forgave. Joan of Arc, fearless and faithful, was burned alive by the kingdom she tried to protect. Even now, it hasn't changed. The employee who never says no is the one overworked and underpaid. The friend who always listens is the one no one asks about. The partner who always forgives is the one most taken for granted. The man who's always understanding is the one most abandoned. The woman who never complains is the one most ignored. Why? Because we don't protect what's always available. We don't cherish what's always there. We don't fear losing what never dares to walk away. The tragedy isn't that good people get hurt. It's that they're hurt silently, repeatedly, without warning, and then blamed for allowing it. You tell yourself, I should be stronger. I should be clearer. I should have said something. But you weren't weak. You were just taught the wrong rules. You thought consistency meant value. Love meant endurance. Silence meant maturity. But here's the brutal truth. What you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. And what they see too often, they start to forget. Respect doesn't die in one big moment. It dies in 1,000 small ones you thought didn't matter. The delayed text, the backhanded compliment, the missed apology, the way they stop asking how you feel because they already assume you'll be fine. And you play your part. You smile. You swallow it. You say it's okay, even when it's not, because you thought Being nice would protect you. Being low maintenance made you lovable. Being silent made you strong. But the world doesn't respect the agreeable. It respects the unavailable. Not because mystery is sexy, but because mystery is safe from abuse. People fear distance. They question what they don't fully understand. They guard their words when they're not sure where they stand with you. But you made it too easy. You stayed. You gave. You explained. You forgave. And now, they don't fear losing you because they've never had to. This is the hidden pain of the kind-hearted. You don't get hated, you get overlooked. You don't get fought, you get forgotten. And that hurts in a way betrayal never could. Because betrayal ends with a cut, but neglect erodes you slowly, until one day, you look in a mirror and wonder where you went. So ask yourself, was it really that they couldn't see you? Or had you made yourself too visible to be noticed? Because sometimes the ones who vanish first are the ones who were never truly seen to begin with. You thought it was personal, but it never was. It wasn't about your heart. It was about your pattern. Two, the deeper mechanism. If you want to know why good people get ignored, you have to stop blaming your kindness and start understanding your wiring. Because the truth is brutal. The brain is not built for fairness. It's built for efficiency, for survival. And in its cold logic, anything predictable is non-threatening. Anything non-threatening is easily dismissed. Your kindness, classified as safe. Your patience, filed under non-urgent. Your loyalty, tagged as always there. You become psychological wallpaper. Always present, never noticed. But here's where it gets deeper. Humans don't just respond to love. We respond to tension, to uncertainty, to the unknown. That's why the boss who barely speaking commands a room. The partner who holds something back feels more magnetic. The friend who's hard to read is often the most respected. It's not manipulation, it's human design. We chase what we don't fully understand. We value what we fear losing. We protect what we feel we can never replace. So when you give everything up front, your thoughts, your time, your energy, people stop leaning in because you've already laid yourself bare. You think vulnerability builds connection, and it can, but vulnerability without discernment becomes exposure. It's like handing someone the blueprint to your emotional core. They didn't earn it, so they don't protect it. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't preach silence out of fear. He preached silence out of strategy. He understood the one who speaks less holds more power. The one who reveals little controls the frame. The one who doesn't respond right away forces others to think twice. Let's go even deeper. This isn't just philosophy, it's biology. The brain's selective attention system is built to filter out what's familiar, what's constant, what doesn't change. The loudest sound in the room, you notice it. The hum of the AC, you stopped hearing it 10 minutes ago. That's how people start treating your presence as background noise. And the terrifying part, you train them to by always responding fast, by always forgiving, by always being the understanding one. They don't guard their words with you because they've never had to fear the consequence of your silence. They don't value your time because you've always given it freely. They don't miss you because you've never left. Now ask yourself, who gets respected in your life? Is it the one who overshares, or the one who speaks in careful doses? Is it the one who's always online, always available, always explaining? Or the one who moves in silence, but whose absence feels loud? Even in nature, this law holds. The lion isn't fear because it roars all day. It's fear because you don't know when it will move. The snake doesn't announce its presence. It waits, it calculates, it strikes once. Power isn't loud. Power is unreadable. So let me ask you again. When was the last time you let someone miss you? When was the last time your silence made someone nervous? When was the last time your absence taught someone your value? Because that is the true currency of power. It's not how much you give. It's how carefully you choose when and to whom you give it. Respect isn't given to the most open heart. It's given to the most self-controlled mind. And the tragedy, the kindest people, the ones who should be most cherished, are often the least feared, not because they aren't strong, but because they never made anyone earn access to that strength. So here's the shift. You don't become respected by being louder. You become respected by being less available, by making your energy something people work to deserve, by creating psychological tension in your presence. That doesn't mean becoming distant out of bitterness. It means becoming calculated out of wisdom. Machiavelli said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." But the fear he spoke of wasn't fear of cruelty. It was fear of mystery, fear of losing your favor, fear of being on the outside of your silence. Because when people can't predict you, they tread carefully. And when they can't access you at will, they begin to respect the weight of your presence. And that is when everything begins to shift, when your silence starts speaking louder than your kindness ever did. 3. The common mistakes. How good people train others to disrespect them. You didn't just get hurt. You were trained to stay quiet, trained to be reasonable, trained to make peace even when the war was inside you. But here's the truth no one told you. Pain doesn't always come from cruelty. It comes from repetition, from the same emotional mistake played on loop in the name of being good. Let's break it down. Mistake number 1. You explain what should never need explaining. Someone disrespects you, and your first instinct is to clarify, soften, justify your own boundary. I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to help. I only said it because I care. But every time you explain what should be self-evident, you shrink your presence. Powerful people don't justify. They state, then they hold silence like a blade. When your boundaries need paragraphs, they stop being boundaries. They become negotiations. And your authority dies in the fine print. Mistake number 2. You forgive without requiring transformation. Yes, forgiveness is strength. But forgiveness without consequence is permission. A signal that says, there's no cause for hurting me. So they come back, some new excuse, and you let them in. Not because you're weak, but because you confuse healing with being accommodating. But healing isn't keeping people close. It's teaching them absence, silence, space, distance. That's how you change behavior. Because if there's no pain in the loss, then what exactly did you forgive? Mistake number 3. You confuse honesty with overexposure. You were told, be open, be real. So you shared everything, your fears, your wounds, your past. But here's the truth. Honesty without discretion is emotional nudity. They didn't earn your story, so they didn't protect it. And now, what was sacred to you is just gossip to them. Real connection doesn't come from oversharing. It comes from restraint, from knowing when not to speak, until someone proves they can hold what you carry. Mistake number 4. You ignore small violations. It starts with a joke at your expense, a message left on read, a compliment that cuts just a little too deep. You feel it, but you let it slide. Maybe they didn't mean it. It's not that serious. I don't want to overreact. But here's the Machiavellian truth. The big betrayals are built on foundations of the small ones you excused. Every time you stayed silent, you trained them to expect you always would. Respect isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in micro decisions, where you draw the line. When you don't smile, how you respond to the first red flag. You either confront the small or get consumed by the big. Mistake number 5. You mistake being needed for being respected. You think if people depend on you, they'll value you. So you over-deliver, fix everything, show up before they even ask. And for a while, it works. But over time, you're no longer seen as powerful. You're seen as useful, like a charger, like a search bar, like background Wi-Fi. Essential, but never sacred. And the moment they no longer need what you offer, they disappear. Because they never respected you. They used you. That's the cycle. You overgive. They expect. You burn out. They replace. And the most dangerous part? You blame yourself. Maybe if I gave more, they'd love me, right? Maybe if I just tried harder. But giving more to the wrong person doesn't earn love. It erodes self-worth. The shift from likable to respected. These mistakes don't mean you're weak. They mean you were never taught how power works. You were trained to be agreeable, be likable, Avoid making anyone uncomfortable. But here's the Machiavellian shift. Being likable is not power. Being respected is. And you don't earn that through exposure. You earn it through discretion, boundaries, silence, the power to say, you don't get that part of me. You don't get another chance. You don't get my words, only my distance. This isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Because until you change your strategy, your kindness will keep getting weaponized against you. Your empathy will keep being mistaken for obedience. Your love will keep ending in exhaustion. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop being needed and start being respected? Because the moment you draw that line is the moment the world rewrites how it sees you. For the foundational philosophy, why silence is the ultimate power. At some point you stop asking, why do they treat me like this? And start asking, what did I allow them to believe about who I am? That is a turning point. It's not emotional, it's strategic. It's the moment pain gives way to clarity, when the story shifts from victimhood to sovereignty. Because here's the part most people will never admit. The world doesn't treat you based on your heart. It treats you based on your frame, your posture, your stillness, your silence. The boundaries you enforce, without ever raising your voice. This is where we step into philosophy, into the mechanics of presence. And no one understood this better than Niccolò Machiavelli. Most people misunderstand him. They think he glorified corruption. They say he admired manipulators. They reduce him to a tyrant's handbook. But if you read deeper, you find something else. Machiavelli wasn't promoting cruelty. He was diagnosing reality. He wasn't creating the rules. He was revealing them. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. That sentence has haunted society for 500 years. Not because it's evil, but because it's accurate. Because a love without boundaries fades. Fear, when rooted in respect, anchors. You don't have to be a tyrant, but you do have to carry the capacity for silence, distance, withdrawal. The silent question in every interaction. In every human interaction, there's a silent question being asked. What happens if I cross you? And if the answer is nothing, they'll forgive me, then they will. Respect doesn't come from your willingness to endure. It comes from your ability to walk away, hold, withhold, protect yourself without asking permission. The shadow and the sovereign self. Carl Jung spoke of integrating the shadow, the dark side of the psyche we hide, deny, suppress. But he didn't say to avoid the shadow, he said to own it. Because only the person who knows how to harm and chooses not to is truly moral. Otherwise, you're not good, you're harmless. And harmless people don't command respect. They attract control. You must become dangerous, non-behavior, in potential, so that when you say nothing, people hear thunder. When you leave a room, the silence follows. Nietzsche's fire, the discipline of restraint. Nietzsche didn't admire obedience. He admired self-overcoming, not by being agreeable, but by becoming untouchable. He wrote, "He who cannot put his thoughts on ice should not enter the heat of dispute." In other words, if you can't control your inner fire, you're not powerful, you're combustible. The thread that binds them. Machiavelli taught you to be respected through restraint. Jung taught you to own the parts of you that can destroy and discipline them. Nietzsche taught you to become sovereign, not through peace, but through self-mastery. And now you begin to see the truth. Power doesn't come from being feared. It comes from being unreadable, unshakable. Think of the people you remember, the ones who walk into a room without saying a word, and suddenly everything around them adjusts. They speak last, move slow, never overshare. And yet, you think about them more than anyone else. That is presence. And presence is strategy. The lion's lesson. Think of a lion. It doesn't roar all day. It doesn't chase every squirrel in the jungle. It doesn't need to. It moves slowly, silently, deliberately, and everything in its path feels the tension of restraint. Not because the lion is cruel, but because everyone knows it could be. That's your new standard. You don't explain. You don't plead. You don't try to convince the world of your goodness. You move like someone who can destroy, but doesn't need to, because people don't respect those who give everything. They respect those who make them earn access. The final shift. From now on, every boundary you hold is not a wall. It's a signal that says, I know who I am, I know what I allow, and I know what I'll walk away from without a word. And when your silence becomes a frame, not a reaction, the world will finally meet you with the weight you once begged for.